Yes, like the rest of the country, you are waiting.
Yes, we've been waiting since about 9 o'clock this morning. That's when we first got the message that we should be on standby for the possibility of an announcement of cabinet today. Parliament is not in session, so things are quiet here. But what we have done, we have lined up political parties for reaction to the announcement later on, and they've all complied. So we will be speaking to them once the announcement has been made. What I can tell you is everybody, of course, is very anxious about the size of the president's cabinet, and many people have been saying that they're really hoping that he will be cutting it down, and this is a sentiment shared by opposition parties as well. So I just want to clarify something. When we speak about the national executive, this comprises of the president, the deputy president, the ministers and the deputy ministers. Cabinet, on the other hand, we are only referring to the president, the deputy president and ministers. Deputy ministers don't form part of a cabinet. So as things currently stand, we have around our total cabinet, that's just the president, deputy and his ministers, we have around 37 ministers, and then if you double that, more or less, that will give you the entire executive. So the entire executive makeup is around 72, if I'm not mistaken. So lots of people are anticipating that the size of the executive in its entirety will be decreased, especially when it comes to deputy ministers. We are not sure exactly how many. The suspicion is that the president will be cutting down within the deputy ministers, and there's also talk that various portfolio will be collapsed into one so that the administration, or the executive rather, is not as bloated as what many people believe it to be. Obviously, we all have to just wait for that. Hopefully we won't have another delay following this one, and hopefully the members of parliament who I am going to be speaking to later on will be patient enough and will still be around once the cabinet's been announced, so that we can get their views on the matter as well. And then just another reminder as well, now once the cabinet's been announced, it paves the way for SONA to take place, and the president has written to parliament to confirm. I mean, the date of the 20th of June has been bandied about. It was never ever confirmed, but now tonight we've of course heard that the presiding officers of the National Assembly and the NCOP have in fact received a letter from the president advising them that the date for the joint sitting will in fact be the 20th of June at 9 o'clock in the evening again. So of course, once the cabinet has been announced and constituted, this paves the way for the SONA as well as for Parliament to begin its work. Committees of course haven't been sitting since before the election because they went into the campaigning period, and now we're just waiting for this phase before SONA so that Parliament can start its work, and it will have a very busy year ahead for the rest of 2019. Francis?
And Abra, I think it's worth noting that Parliament is essentially one of the three arms that serves as a check on the executive, on cabinet, on what those ministers are doing, although the ministers and deputy ministers must come from Parliament itself mostly. So a lot of our analysts tonight are saying we need new faces. Business is calling for younger people, but based on the new MPs, the new faces in Parliament, or the lack of faces, does that give us any clue as to the possible composition of Cyril Ramaphosa's new cabinet, new executive? Will it change that much, Abra?
Well, that of course is what everybody's hoping for. I mean, up until the very last minute, many people were still hoping for a female deputy president. We still don't know what the outcome of that is going to be, but following what happened yesterday, I think it paves the way. I think that answer is pretty obvious right now. The ANC has also been quite proud in the swearing in of its MPs last week. The ANC was quite proud to parade their new younger generation of MPs to the media. So hopefully those kinds of things will be taken into account. And you actually reminded me of something as well. I remember last year in his response to the State of the Nation debate. Last year, President Cyril Ramaphosa was emphatic about the lifestyle audit that his executive will be facing. We haven't seen that happening yet, but in light of the various corruption scandals, in light of the various public protector reports, it will be very, very interesting to see when exactly he is going to start with those lifestyle audits, because it's been more than a year that he's promised that, and I, for instance, have been very keen in seeing how that will play out. But he said he will definitely start with his ministers when it comes to the lifestyle audit. So that's another thing we have to keep our eye on going forward. Francis?
And like she says, Cape Town and we as well will be on standby. All the political reaction, all the reaction from labour unions, from business. As soon as that announcement comes through, the president was expected to announce the cabinet and the executive, which includes the deputy ministers, at 8 o'clock, saying that has been delayed because he's consulting with the individual members. Let's continue with the build-up, some pre-analysis.